Hello everyone, this is William with CommanderCast.com, here with our next installment of Avacyn, the Alpha build. This time we're on the Ice Age. And today we were adding about 9 to 10 cards. I actually lost count, so it makes me think that I forgot to actually write down a card that I might have missed right now. But hey, that's okay. So with Avacyn, we are very happy with our commander, very set into our choice. So we're going to be sticking around here. We're going to look to build around here. And Ice Age gives us a lot of great tools to try out here. This is going to be a much more experimental week right now because we have actually cut all 5 of our circle protections. I say 5 because even though we had circle protection artifacts, we did manage to get one of these circle protections into, together because we had the Whirlbarrow ones. Yeah. The one that says red or black, but it was costing 2? Yeah, it cost 2. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what we do get. We got the Jeweled Amulet, which is a zero-cost artifact. Zero-cost artifact, that's usually pretty good. What's it do? So, for a 1 mana tap, you can actually charge it up with a mana, and the next turn you can use the same kind of mana that you put into it. You tap, you remove the charge counter, you make that same kind of mana. So for us, it's going to help get out, a couple of things much earlier. The 4 drop zone is our really heavy curve because it's where it's all our important things. So a lot of the artifacts that help us get stuff out earlier, like the Fellwar Stone comes out, makes mana, helps us get this down, gets our Kismet a turn earlier. Really important. Jewel Amulet has the upside of making colored mana if we take a turn off to charge it up, which is a little different than something like the Mana Vault, which just ate so much mana. But speaking of Mana Vault, hey, Mana Vault's back! Went ahead, thought about it, realized that, it might actually be fine just as a ritual effect. A one-time ritual effect that's going to, ping us every turn for having used it. And considering that we have some bigger targets now, like with the Kismet, stuff that we want to get down early, it might actually be that bad just as a one-time mana use. It's something that I observed from one of the last games we played, where I saw someone put down, their monolith, and they just never untapped it. They actually just used it as a ritual spell, and it's not even that's actually worth meriting. I was actually pretty concerned with paying the 4 to untap it so that we would have that mana again in the future, but we're gonna try this. Like I said, this is a much more experimental week. One of the new cards that and then there's also that other question that, people have been asking me, hey, if you decide that a card's done or it's not going to be good for the deck, are you just kind of like one and done? Like, are you never going to look back and get it again? And no, that's not the case. If a card is good enough to come back, then it's going to come back. The idea is that we're refining Avacyn with our card pool. So if we have a card that comes around later that says, okay, we need to go back and revisit this card, see if it's actually going to work for us now, then that's what we need to do. It's one of the things that, there are restrictions on this deck building process because we're going set by set. Saying goodbye forever, wham bam, thank you ma'am, to some of these cards is not part of that agenda. So Mana Vault's back. We've also got a brand new card, Warning! For a 1 mana instant, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by target attacking creature this turn. So, kind of a very narrow, very limited fog. But hey, Holy Day is good enough because it's for like the Massive Swing Army. This would be good enough if it's just like the one thing that's going to kill us. And there have been times where that one thing was going to kill us. It's limited by the fact that it's combat damage. So, concerned that might not be enough. However, it does fall into our theme of, preventing damage, making sure that people can't be, if we need to save someone, we can save them with a lethal blow. Like, we can go ahead and stop the one big thing. And there's also the fact that it can be used as a combat trick, right? Like, if Avacyn gets in a scuffle with, like, a dragon or whatever, we can cast Warning, play it on that dragon, and now Avacyn isn't going to take any damage from that dragon, which is really important because Avacyn tends to be one of the few creatures we have. Speaking of one of the few creatures we have, we had the chance. I ended up cutting 4 creatures this week. The Colossus of Sardia, which was the 9-drop that needed some amount of money to, untap. Ivory Guardians, which was just completely lackluster. I wasn't feeling it. The Petrosphinx, which I didn't get to see that much, but I feel like we got to replace it with adequate stuff this time. Like, it just got it wasn't as necessary anymore. And then we also got rid of Suchi and Tetravus because those were artifact creatures. We want to get away from the artifact creatures because the Hand of Justice requires white creatures to tap. So our creature count is still really low. It's 18. Well, that's really low for someone like me who likes playing with creatures. But we do get quite a few new toys for Avacyn to play with. One of being the Shield Bearer, which is just a 2-mana 0/3, but he has banding, which is really good. One of the things that Ice Age gave us was a number of banders, which I absolutely love. You know, if this was the paper version, we would have a lot more creatures, because a lot of these banding creatures from Ice Age just aren't on Moto, and that really disappoints me, because I could have almost entirely remade the deck just with those banding creatures. You know, between Ice Age and Fallen Empires. Would have been fantastic. I can still do that in paper, and I think I might actually do that in the near future once I've actually saved up a little enough. Right now, we're just at that point where it's like I've got a certain amount of money to pay off. I've got bills to pay. Fortunately, you guys at the Patreon are helping me out with this project. Without that Patreon money, this project becomes a lot harder. A lot of these cards are dirt cheap, but you get stuff like Maze of Ith, and sometimes you just actually need to, pay a little bit more than you expect you would. But Shield Bearer, it's going to be banning. It's not the only card with banning that we got. But we'll go back to that. Pit Trap. For 2-mana artifacts. It's 2 and tap, sack it, destroy target attacking creature without flying. It can't be regenerated. So a very nice Rattlesnake card. The 2 mana to activate is actually really key. What I've been thinking about with some of these cards is that even though they might have like a higher cost up front, like the Horn of Deafening, as long as their activated abilities are cheaper, they're worth playing in our particular build. One, because we don't have that, consistent mana ramp. We've got like land tags to hit our land drops, and we have a couple of small artifacts. Even with the inclusion of Mana Vault, we're using that as a one-time ritual to power out some of this stuff earlier out. Because now that we have, stuff that we want to power out sooner, it's worth playing the Mana Vault again. Pit Trap, though, very small, very effective. We're still running the Mishra's Workshop, which should be over here. Yeah, we're still running the Mishra's Workshop, so we still have a number of artifacts that the Workshop is going to help power out a lot sooner. Pit Trap, very nice Rattlesnake card. I'm looking forward to playing with this card. And hey, we can also get back with the Argivian Archaeologist. So artifacts that stack themselves and being able to recur them for some amount of value, that's going to help us out quite a bit in terms of card advantage. Going over to the 4-drop slot, where just a gluttony and logjam of stuff. I would love to thin this out sometime in the future once we can, spread things along the curve a little more. Today we get Jester's Cap, a 4-mana artifact, but with a 2-tap sack Jester's Cap. Search target player's library for 3 cards and exile them. Then that player shuffles his or her library. We've been having problems, fighting against decks that can, cycle through all their cards. They'll recycle their graveyard. They'll manage to get the same thing back over and over again. Jester's Cap is really good for that. One, because it's preventive measured, which I like. That's part of White's philosophy, is take care of the problem before it becomes a problem. So with a 2 and tap, sack, not only can we recur this with the Argivian Archaeologist, we can go ahead and get a free look through, and we can just Silver Bullet, straight take 3 things out of their deck. Pop, pop, pop. So if there are only like 3 cards that really kill us, we'll get rid of them ahead of time. They're playing Lab Maniac combo, we can get rid of that Lab Maniac, and now we've taken away their primary win con. We can go ahead and scout them out. Kind of like what the Glasses of Urza were doing before, but not limited to not just their hand, but going through their deck. And if someone's being particularly egregious, we can go ahead and just, tone it down just a bit. Bring people back down to our level, which is kind of the important thing. We don't have the power level to go up to anyone else yet, so we need to find ways to bring them down to our power level. And Jester's Cap is going to be a nice little bit of tech to help us with that. Something I am scared will go horribly, horribly wrong for us, though. Enduring Renewal. It's a 4-mana enchantment. Play with your hand revealed. If you draw a card, reveal the top card of your library instead. If it's a creature card, put it in your graveyard. Otherwise, you draw it. But whenever a creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return it to your hand. This is a really cool card, but I am scared to play it. We only have 18 creatures, so right now, in theory, it's fine. But the idea that we might need creatures and we just can't get them and we have to constantly discard them, that is a scary thing. Now, with that being said, I could see this card making a comeback in something like our black-white deck if we go with Eiley or Daxos or whoever, because, that deck might want to play into a reanimate type effect. And so we're going to be filtering through our creatures. Let's see. If you draw a card, reveal the title creature. Let's see. That's the other scary thing. Is that if we top deck and it is a creature, it goes to our graveyard and we just lose our draw. That's kind of a scary thing for a mono white deck. Now with a black white deck, I can actually see it being actually okay, just because you're playing cards like Phyrexian Arena, so you get multiple draws a turn. So if you were to double whiff and hit both of the creatures, that sucks. But at the same time, it's fueling your reanimation spells. Noyandar might actually like this card a bit more, because Noyandar would play with almost no creatures whatsoever. And, let's see, land creatures? Yeah. The lands would be animated, they would go to the graveyard. Noyandar would die, he would go to the graveyard, but you can send him back. Yeah, I like this a lot better than something like Noyandar, or maybe even Narset. But it's definitely worth trying out here. And like I said, this is much more of an experimental week. If it ends up not working out, we can always cut it to put one of our Circles of Protection back in. Going over to our 5 drops, we've got the Keldorn Royal Guard, the Hoth 2.0, Veteran Bodyguard, Keldorn Royal Guard, Veteran Bodyguard, Keldorn Royal Guard. Only this one is a lot less automatic. He's a 2/5 for 5, or they, I guess. Tap. All combat damage will be dealt to you by unblocked creatures this turn is dealt to Keldorn Royal Guard instead. So we get a bit of a redundancy here. We got the Veteran Bodyguard and the Keldorn Royal Guard. Avacyn is going to be able to protect them both. Hopefully this will be more fog type effects. Keldorn Sky Captain. It's a 5-mana 2/2, but it has flying, first strike, and that favorite keyword, banding. A lot of these banding cards are going to be awesome when we get to something like the Aurelia the War Leader build, which is a very aggressive deck. Wants to have all the banding cards. I don't think there are really any red cards with banding, though. Are there? I'll have to wait till we get to Ib to figure that out. But the Sky Captain does have flying, and with this, our banding count is actually up to... Oh, what is it now? We got the Phalanx, Sky Captain, so that's 2... Let's see. Take a quick look here. Knights of Thorn, that's 3. We had the Banalish Hero, so that's 4. Shield Bearers, 5. Then I want to say that was actually... Yeah, we've got 5 cards with banding now. Compared to just the Banalish Hero, which was good enough to run just for the banding. Yeah. 5 cards with banding. How about that? This one has the upside of flying, though, which means that it can team up with Avacyn to go after those flyers. And it's going to be one of the few ways that we can deal with a dragon or something like that. And it has first strike. I don't know how relevant that's going to be, but it could be. And finally, the last big thing that we have over here in our 7-drop slot. Like I said, we did cut the Colossus of Sardia. It's Seraph. We finally have a third angel for our trio between Avacyn and Seraph. Seraph, 4/4 flyer for 7 mana. Whenever a creature dealt damage by Seraph this turn dies, put that card onto the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. Sacrifice the creature when you lose control of Seraph. I was so excited when I was doing the review, the preview show for the $10 patrons on our Patreon for this card. One, just because it's an angel, being able to finally have a third angel for this deck it makes me very happy. But 2, she has a very nifty effect that can actually combo with the Feral's Mantle. Because remember, when she's not blocked, if this is on her, she can deal 6 damage to a creature, which will usually be enough to take out anything. And then her effect actually brings it back, because it's just whenever a creature dealt damage by her this turn dies. So just go boom on someone for 6, bring that thing back, could actually help us build an army very nicely. We'll see if we can get her out off enough to do that. 7 mana is a lot of mana. It's part of why we cut out the Sardia, was to make room for her. Hopefully, having the one-shot ritual effect of the Mana Vault will help us get there. We can go ahead, play this on turn 6 if Avacyn's already out. Play her that way with the Mana Vault. That way we have mana open for the Avacyn's first ability too. and we'll see if this actually comes to fruition. A 4/4 isn't going to get into a lot of scuffles. She's not going to kill a lot of things that will really matter so much. I mean, she blocks like random mana dorks, then we can get some value on her. We got some stuff that will hopefully discourage attacking, though. One of the other things that I'm very interested in seeing is if the lack of circles of protection is going to, tell people, hey, don't. It's a waste of time to try and hit us as much as it used to, because that's going to be one of the trade-offs here. We have cutting the circles gives us a lot more room to just include cool and interesting cards to try out. The downside being that there were a lot of games where I know for a fact people weren't swinging at us because of those circles of protection. On one hand, it's good and bad. Like, people don't feel as hosed because then they see the circle protection green and they go, oh wait, but I'm the only one playing green. Sad face. I mean, that's good for us because it means they're not swinging at us. But it also means that we don't have as many early plays. We can't just go, okay, turn 2, let's put down a circle protection. It means that we don't get into those games where sometimes they're just dead cards. Where we go, okay, no one's actually playing red, let's go ahead and discard this card. So, it'll be an interesting trade-off. The effect was really powerful when it mattered. We'll see if some of these cards here are strong enough to overcome those corner case scenarios. So let's go ahead and go into our first game. This is Win with CommanderCast.com. Let's get it.